There we go. Check, 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 check. Come on in the room. Now, of course, I go live 9 o'clock Wednesdays. Not big enough to matter. But of course, when I go live, I look over and guess who has a session going right now on Twitter? Dr. Tommy Curry is doing episode number 4 on the Black Male Study session. So I ain't even gonna lie, fam. We probably gonna cut this like at the 30-minute mark tonight. Can't even lie, because I'm actually going to play from episode number 1 tonight. So that's crazy that this is a night that Torian, who I do follow, black journalist out of Atlanta. It's crazy that he's going live right now. But you know, we always start out with talent acquisition tip of the night. Hey, Relentless, appreciate you coming in. Let's see, Ali, appreciate you coming in. Running a few minutes late, but we good. Let's see here. Let me hit a couple of my fellows up and tell them to let the Discord know. Hey, I can't even blame you, man. Like I said, we're gonna cut the night short. I know that because it typically takes them a little bit to get into it. So if they just started at 9, I know probably about 9:35, 9:40, they'll be in the middle of it. So love listening to Dr. Tommy Curry, man. That is a smart brother, man. That is our era W.E.B. Du Bois. Like, he really is. He really is. Everything that he's doing right now in Black Male Studies is just so important to how African-American men, Afro-American men, Black American, however you like to use the terminology, how you see yourselves in this type of environment, especially in this type of environment. Like that, yeah, that's my dude right there. I can't wait to one day like actually meet him and be in a session and ask questions, you know, for him. I can't wait till his next book come out, to be honest. So love learning from guys like that, man. Like, very, very important. We, you know, they always position the Colts, you know, the guys who don't matter, right? The guys who really don't help, right? The Van Jones, the Colts. And I have nothing against Colts. It's just that anytime I see someone that's being positioned, it's like, this ain't the real stuff. This ain't real. But what we're going to go over tonight, first things first, talent acquisition tip of the week. So y'all know last week I spoke on this, right? And I'm gonna speak on it again, all right? Stop posting your job stuff on social media, especially in this new world environment, okay? This young lady right here posted, less than 1% of black women are project managers in oil and gas. Less than 0.5 of those are engineers. 11 years in, I'm still here. A black woman, an engineer, a project manager, right? This right here. This is what gets you, right? Right now on social media, this right here, right? In a room full of white men, right? She is asking the environment to take a shot with her. And you see my comment right here. Y'all got to stop posting in this current environment, all right? I don't have a problem with anybody working in any industry, right? I'm not telling you what to say and what not to say. What I am telling you as an HR professional is that all this stuff right here reaches back to upper management. And let me be clear, when something reaches the level of HR, whenever you see something like this and it reaches the level of HR, that means that at least one VP has put their hands on it. At least one. Right? Sometimes it reaches the CEO level, but anytime it reaches the director of HR or the VP of HR, or the head of HR, whenever these comments reach, right, that means that somebody has put their hands on it. Stop doing things like this on social media, especially with your real names, with your real information. Stop doing that. This is not the environment for it. To be honest, America has never been an environment for it. When Obama took office, I think everybody felt emboldened. And right now, what you're receiving right now is a white lash. But this right here, don't do this right here. Even though she didn't really say anything, most states are at will employers, right? So if you're not in California, Colorado, New York, you can be fired for less. Seriously. Like, you can, at will means, yo, you ain't got to be here. All right. Stop making yourself a target because you want to brag on social media. All right. Talent acquisition tip of the night. Okay. Best way to get a job is to have a job. All right. If you don't have a job, it's hard to get a job. It's harder to get a job. I won't say it's hard, but it's harder. Stop making yourself a target, man. All right. Let's hop into it tonight, man. Where are we going to go tonight? So I always get comments on this post right here. So I'm going to play it again.
Marriage in prior years was successful because women didn't have as many options as they have now, right? The society was designed. I mean, there's a stat, I believe women couldn't get their own credit cards until like the early 80s. Yeah. Couldn't get their own bank account until the 60s. You couldn't, the scar of divorce, she couldn't get a job. So 40, 50, 60 years ago, I mean, you go back to the Bible days, women were treated like property.
Yeah.
Marriage,
subhuman.
You take my daughter, give me 10 goats. Like, she's for children to help you. Literally, 10 goats. And I need you to have these kids so we can work this farm. Right? So, I think as time has progressed, women have been able to go to college, get educated. Black women are the most educated people in the United States.
They are.
They're able to get paid, right? And now you just being a man ain't enough to be American.
And men ain't adjusted.
And men have not had to adjust. And you see people argue online, that's what's wrong with women today. You gonna end up with cats. As a mortician, right? There's a girl in death. This whole conversation happened on Twitter, and somebody in the death care industry was like, by and large, women don't be found after 2-3 weeks dead. Like, women got communities, whether they're married or not. Their friends come check on you. Their kids come check on you. The people who end up dead for 2-3 weeks, that's men. So men tend to project what they think will happen to women, which is actually going to happen to them.
Why do you feel like in this current generation of men and women, people are leaning away?
I'm going to let it replay while I'm looking for the latest comment.
Most of marriage in prior years was successful because women didn't have as many options as they have now, right? The society was designed. I mean, there's a stat, I believe women couldn't get their own credit cards until like the early 80s. Yeah. Couldn't get their own bank account until the 60s. You couldn't, the scar of divorce, she couldn't get a job. So 40, 50, 60 years ago, I mean, you go back to the Bible days, women were treated like property. Marriage,
subhuman.
You take my daughter, give me 10 goats. Like, she's for children to help you. Literally, 10 goats. And I need you to have these kids so we can work this farm. Right? So,
one of the things that I want to point out here, I often get this comment. It's like, yo, Pastor Mike Will, why do you defend this so much? Why do you defend this ideal that there's not bad men out there? And look, I never defend the fact that there's not bad men out there. One of the things that I always point out is that, yo, when we use this overlapping men bad, women good, it has to be the men. The numbers just don't hold up to that. And I'm playing this clip right here because I want y'all to see this. I want y'all to see this comment, right? Right. This is a comment that just looped me back in. All right. So for one, y'all know I'm not an actual real pastor of a church. It is a moniker and a misnomer. It clearly says that in my bio. All right. But this comment is from Fashion Trendy Killer. I hope you aren't a leader or a follower, a leader of any flock or congregation with that tainted mindset. You listen to respond instead of listening to understand. You quite literally proved his point. If there were ever a division between black men and women, it is most often because black men project like he said. All right. Now, what Kevin said was like, hey, men were preventing women from having things. Right. Now, he's saying this to a black audience. Right. So my question is always like, OK, What are men preventing women from having, right? Like, give me an example of, here's my response. Give me an example of your grandpa or dad oppressing women in your family, right? Give me an example. Because we get this, we get this all the time. And the thing is, you will never see conservative women say this about conservative men. You will never see liberal women on the far left that are Euro Americans say this about their men, right? It's only one community that really dives in on this, like, hey, men has been oppressing women, right? And that's what Kev on stage is saying, and that's what I'm fighting against. And I'm going to show y'all, I'm going to play a clip tonight, and I'm going to show y'all why I fight against this so hard all the time, right? This isn't me taking a shot. This isn't me saying, women bad, men good. As oftentimes it's men bad, women good. It's a reason why I'm so anti this, right? And the reason why I'm so anti this, I'm gonna show you a chart real quick. Oh, come on, don't tell me we need a safety check on a clip. All right, this is going to be a clip on intimate partner violence. See if I can find this real quick here, because I want y'all to read something with me real quick here. Let's see if y'all can see the whole chart. Okay. I want y'all to read something with me here. Now, this isn't an excuse for any bad behaviors, but I just want to point something out to you real quick. So this is updates to a 2012 review, and it's going from 2012 to 2022. Sorry. Now, I want you to read what they say right here. We examine bidirectional and unidirectional violence by the nature of sample, large population, community, university or college students, adolescents or middle school students, clinical or treatment seeking. Okay. So obviously this doesn't have any information about us in our homes privately right now, but out of everybody that they could get data from, they got the data from it. And what I want you to see here is that our review indicates that bidirectional violence remained prevalent among all sample types. So this was a new ideal back in 2012 because it was on the heels of domestic violence, right? So what social scientists did is, well, let's investigate intimate partner violence, right? Let's take domestic violence, and instead of just making it man versus woman, let's look at everything that occurs in the home. All right, the average reported amount of intimate partner violence, right, was bidirectional in nature. That was 52%, right, which is the number that I was used to, right? Most of violence that occurs between intimate partners, right, boyfriend, girlfriend, girlfriend, boyfriend, is about 50-50, right? Let me see here. Our findings demonstrate substantial consistency with the 2012 review, which found 57.5%. Okay. So this validates the importance of considering intimate partner violence as a complex and nuanced phenomena likely to occur with both partners engaged in violence. All right. Now, this is the part that I think most of us are used to when we're talking about intimate partner violence. The rates of female perpetrated unidirectional violence was higher than the male unidirectional violence, right? So this is just one person coming home beating someone else's butt. All right? Just one person, right? So the vast majority of domestic violence is both people going at each other. So both people can be perpetrators and both people can be victims, right? If your lady go upside your head with a frying pan, you're a victim, okay? She's the violent one, right? You go upside her head with a frying pan, she's the victim. You're the violent one. There's a huge strength difference between men and women. So one of these is more likely to result in damage occurring to someone else, right? Even though if any of us get hit with a cast iron skillet, it's probably going to hurt, all right? But I want you to look at this, what I'm highlighting right here. In the rates of female perpetrated unidirectional violence, the rates were higher, right? So unidirectional was 31%, just women hitting the men, and men hitting the women was 16.9%. So 16.9%. This was the number that I have majorly been going off on. And this is why I got to hop off here in the next 20 minutes or so, because I know Dr. Tommy Curry is going to start digging into these numbers. Because I want to play this from episode 1 that he had with Torian. So I want you to keep this number in mind, right? 16.9%, right? So 16.9%, that is what we consider to be domestic violence, right? So that's men coming home, wailing on the woman. Ali says, I think men are less likely to report it if they are a victim. Absolutely. So the numbers probably are higher, but I want us to look at this. I want us to look at, the 16.9%, because this is what we're used to when we're discussing. Like, so anytime we're having to, as men, defend oppressing women, all right, the vast majority of the time that really doesn't occur with black men. Vast majority of the time that doesn't occur. Now everybody's going to disagree with me, but I'm going to show you something. I'm going to show you something real quick. Let me hop into this episode because I want to play something for you guys. Oh, which one do I want to play first? All right. Now, he has wide abuse. Go back and listen to this episode. You're in the car. It's about an hour and 20 minutes. It's worth listening to. Every last one of these are worth listening to one time. And then for the rest of the year, just playing them when you're in your car. All right. I'm going to hop on right here, though.
If we go back to the late 1800s, when they first start writing about black men being dangerous, it was used as an argument by people like Samuel Cartwright, who suggested that Africans were so violent towards women that they would line the streets of Africa with their skulls. Now, this idea was held by most ethnologists as well as suffragettes. So, in a way, the condition for white women getting the right to vote over black men, at least as reflected by people like Susan B. Anthony and other feminists that were writing in the Revolution, was to depict black men's freedom as enabling black men to have dominion over black women and beat them. They suggested that this was something that black men had learned from slavery. It was part of their racial trait of brutality, and it was something to be feared. Now, the irony of this is that during this period of time, black men were not actually allowed to beat their wives.
Okay, I want y'all to read that transcript right there, right? So this ideal, so this is first wave feminism, right? So this ideal that black men are the violent brute, right? This comes from first wave feminism. This is not coming from black women. This is coming from Euro-American women, right? And it's this ideal that, hey, once black men was freed, hey, black men have been beating their women. And this ideal comes from the enslavement of Africans, right? Now, Dr. Tommy Curry, through his research, have pointed out that black men were not actually allowed to beat their wives. All right? They actually were not allowed to, right? Because why? Because the wife was not his property. All right? So, and he goes on to say, when you look at how black men were treated, there was the right to discipline one's wife called chastisement. And it was based on the notion of the patriarchy said that the men were the head of the household and they ruled over women and children. So when black men became emancipated in the southern United States, where is it at? Hold on, let me let it play. I want y'all to see what he's saying.
And for some people, they may ask, well, how does that make sense? The history of racism in America is so irrational that when you look at how black men were treated, there was this right to discipline one's wife called chastisement. And it was based in the notion of patriarchy that said that men were the head of the household and they ruled over the women and children. So when black men became emancipated, what they did, especially in the southern states, was they made black men's rights to chastise their wives illegal. So if a black man was accused of beating his wife during Reconstruction, he would lose the right to vote, he could be put in jail, or he could be lynched.
Listen to this next part.
fact, if you read Ida B. Wells's The Red Record in 1895, she lists several cases of black men being lynched for wife beating. Now, one of the pieces of chastisement was that you could do no physical injury to the woman because that was considered barbaric.
All right. Now, this part is very, very important, right? Because, again, when it comes to feminism, right, and it comes to this idea of men continually oppressing women, right, no one ever really says what men, right? So when it comes from the black community, there's an inference that the abusive man is the black man, right? The black man is the abuser, right? This comes from the emancipation times where the idea of black men being brutes and beating their wives was the story that was told, despite the fact that there was actually laws against it, right? As a black man, you literally, even after emancipation, when other men was putting their hands on women, if you did it as a black man, you would be lynched. This is something that is lost. It's even lost on me, right? Someone that I call myself the black male bail bondsman. It's even lost on myself, right? But I want to hop down. So I want you to first understand that this notion that black men are violent, I want you to understand where it comes from, right? And why it's permeated even today. But then I want you to listen right here.
You talk about the 61, 31, 8.
Now, mind you, we saw intimate partner violent rates, men beating on women, right? Domestic violence rates was at 16.9%, right? That was the rate because I saw this and black male fatherhood back in 2012, 2014. It's really when it changed. The internet it took off, right? Apps start taking off. So you just start having so much more information. So it really just opened my eyes to be like, man, the things that I feel to be true, I'm finding out through empirical evidence that these things are true. But I want you to listen to this next part right here. And I'm going to let everybody out here so we can hop on Dr. Tommy Curry's live tonight with Torian.
When it comes to IPV numbers. And that's a statistic that I wasn't even aware of until I read your work. So for the audience, can you tell everybody what that means exactly?
Well, so within any population, you have different kinds of intimate partner violence. The 61, when you talk about black people, black Americans specifically, is the reported rate of bidirectional abuse.
So this is going to be the bidirectional, the female versus male domestic violence, and the male versus female domestic violence. Now remember that 16.9 number, because that's what we typically talk about, which is men attacking women, right? 16.9% of men attacking women. But listen to this.
So the majority of bidirectional abuse and the majority of domestic violence among black people is bidirectional. This means that there is a conflictual relationship, usually involving high levels of verbal and psychological abuse that escalates into physical abuse. It could be non-lethal that can ultimately escalate into injury. It's a combative situation where both parties, men and women, could be both perpetrator and victim at different times. The 30 or 31 statistic is the relationship or the situation of female to male perpetrated violence. So the second greatest occurrence of violence in the black race is female to male perpetrated. Now, the majority of that violence is non-lethal, but it leads to injury. The 8% is the male to female prevalence of violence, right? So that's saying that, look, if you're saying, well, what's the rate that black men abuse black women? It would be 8%. It's the smallest. But because it's male initiated, it has the risk for the greatest injury.
Now, did y'all hear what he said, what the black male to black female violence rate was? Did y'all hear that? So we know that the number was actually 16.9%, right? The black male to black female domestic violence rate is 8%. It's half. It's half of the national average, right? And this would make sense when you realize that since during the enslavement of the prisoners of war from the coup d'etat kingdoms of the Gold Coast kingdoms of Africa, right? That black men were not allowed to hit black women, right? Since the emancipation, Reconstruction into the apartheid that we had in this country, that black men also was still not allowed to, abuse black women, right? Then forward to post-apartheid, the domestic violence rate for black men putting their hands on black women in a violent nature is 8%. It's half the national average, right? I have not pulled that up. That is coming from Dr. Tommy Curry. He is far and foremost the expert when it comes to black male studies. I did not double check him, but I found that to be interesting because I was like, yo, that number. Like I said, I'm going back through the episodes, and I went back through it, and I was just like, yo, like, so what you're telling me is when Kev on stage can crack a joke and say, yeah, black men are just these oppressive people, right? But the actual empirical data show that not only are you not violent, even your most violent men are half the violent rate of other demographics, right? Like that should pique your curiosity to why black males in this country, why our PR is so devastatingly tied to the worst of us, despite the fact that most of the worst of us is below the per capita national average, right? Like I love whenever that side of the 4chan comes to Twitter and they be like, oh, per capita, and look at this black man, he had 30 felonies and he was out on the street and he murdered somebody. And it's like, yeah, that's one man with 30 felonies, right? A high rate of violence would be amongst a demographic would be like if there was 30 men with a felony, right? But one man with 30 felonies, that's one person. Now we might disagree on what needs to transpire in order to keep that violence down, but to just extrapolate that across a whole demographic when the evidence is everything contrary, right? Like let's look at it, right? 16.9% is the average. Right? Look what's highlighted. That's male to female bidirectional violence. It's male to female violence. Right? But Dr. Tommy Curry just told you, it's based upon his research.
You talk about the 61-31-8 rule when it comes to IPV numbers, and that's a statistic that I wasn't even aware of until I read your work. So for the audience, can you tell everybody what that means exactly?
Well, so within any population, you have different kinds of intimate partner violence. The 61, when you talk about black people, black America's situation, where both parties, men and women, could be both perpetrator and victim at different times. The 30 or 31 statistic is the relationship or the situation of female to male perpetrated violence. So the second greatest occurrence of violence in the black race is.
And I want y'all to notice that I'm staying off of the female to male violence. That is 31%. I'm not even harping on that tonight. Not even going to jump on the sisters tonight.
Female to male perpetrated. Now the majority of that violence is non-lethal, but it leads to injury. The 8% is the male to female prevalence of violence, right? So that's saying that, look, if you're saying, well, what's the rate that black men abuse black women?
What's the rate that black men abuse black women?
It would be 8%. It's the smallest. But because it's male initiated, it has the risk for the greatest injury.
And he's correct, because males are way stronger than women. So yes, like that's bad, right? I'm not defending the 8% of guys. Okay, the hell with them. All right. But what I am pointing out tonight is because I got that comment and people are always trying to put words in my mouth. It's like, yo, that's not what he's saying. When men make light of lies and throw lies out there and say that, hey, black men are the oppressors of black women, right? Despite all the evidence to the contrary, I'm always going to address it. I'm always going to correct it. That thread has damn near 200 comments of people disagreeing with me, by the way. There's nobody singing my praises, which is fine, right? But I'm always going to attack it because the true information is out here now. And there are guys like Dr. Tommy Curry, Green Gorilla, Dr. Hassan Johnson. These are people that you really, really need to follow. Torian Torian interviews a lot of these guys. So you know that as a black man, how much people are lying on your name, right? And that's not to say that you need to go out here and fight and be a revolutionary. Y'all know how I feel about that, right? But it is something so you understand who your friends are, right? If somebody is willing to just lie on you and you can put the correct information in front of them and it does not change their position, right? I'm not telling you to cut that person off because there's a good chance that you got to work with that person because we don't have a community that can self-sustain itself, right? We have to be transactional with a lot of people, including people that don't like us, including people in our community that don't like us. But it does at least make sure that you understand this person is not your friend. All right. That's all I really got for tonight. I'm hopping off here real quick, real early. I will play more of this, but they're actually doing episode number 4 right now, and I really want to hop on and join it. So I'm going to head over. If you go to Torian Walker on Twitter or Dr. Tommy Curry, both of these guys probably have it going on their spaces right now, and they're probably just about to hop into some probably really good information tonight. So I'm going to hop off here. I'm going to be in there. Always feel free to hit me up. I'm Pastor Mike Will from Black Dash Club. Appreciate all you guys for tuning in. Appreciate everybody tuning in last episode. We dropped the most recent episode yesterday. Last week episode received over like 2,000 downloads in like a few days. So not sure what that was about. But if you're new here, if you're listening to this, thank you for that. Please continue to share. I do think we're right on the cusp of exploding. And then we can start having these great interviews with these great people.